welcome to your Choice 2020 primary election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Connie Rabbani. Joining us is Meridian Township Supervisor, Democratic incumbent candidate Ron Styka. Ron is currently the Township Supervisor and will continue serving for another 4 years as the Meridian Township Supervisor race is uncontested in both the primary and general elections. Ron, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem.
Before we talk about being Meridian Township Supervisor, we would like to give this opportunity for you to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Okay, I think people know me quite well. I've been on the board total 8 years and supervisor for 4. There's not a lot to say except that I feel rather privileged that people thought well enough of me that nobody decided to oppose me in this election, neither in the primary nor in the November election. So I'm looking forward to serving our public, our residents for 4 more years. It's kind of exciting. And, you know, I've run for office a lot of times. I ran for Okemos School Board 5 times and succeeded all those times, plus for trustee once and then supervisor. So it's kind of a real pleasure here to not have an opponent for once after all those different races.
And for those who don't know, what is the scope of the Township Supervisor's responsibilities?
Well, a supervisor in a township, especially a major township like Meridian, you know, we're quite large. We have 43,000 people and are, you know, 3rd largest in the Lansing area, just barely behind East Lansing in population. It's a lot like being the mayor of a city, especially the type of government. For example, East Lansing's form of government and Meridian's is very similar because they have what we call a weak mayor government, where the mayor is actually a councilman who gets elevated to that position, and then the council really decides things. Well, in Meridian, the board makes the decisions. You need at least 4 board members to make the policy decisions. But the supervisor, who's elected separately, is part of that board. And our duties include running the meetings, of course, setting the agenda for the meetings, and then things like consulting with the manager on policy on a day-to-day basis, making appointments to the various boards and commissions, and we have a lot of those, and dealing with the public on issues. It's a broad spectrum.
And what accomplishments are you most proud of as Township Supervisor, and what do you want to do in the next 4 years?
Well, it's interesting. I think I'm proud of just Meridian in general, and what I've been able to accomplish. I think it's more what the whole community has been able to accomplish. You know, we call ourselves a prime community. We did some study as to who we were and what we were, and came up with that sort of slogan, and I think it's very appropriate. We are a prime place to live, a prime place to do business, prime place to get educated if you're a young person, or if you go to a university just down the road at MSU, which is partially in Meridian Township. A lot of people don't know that. So I'm proud of the township in general, and I like to maintain it as a prime place. I like to keep our neighborhoods to be the kind of neighborhoods that people want to live in, to help our school districts to the extent that the township can, to manage growth, so that while we have growth in the township, it's the kind of growth that people want and enjoy, not just willy-nilly growth, but things that people need and places to live that are appropriate for our citizens. So those are kind of some of the things. And then, you know, we've had to deal with the COVID situation, which is, I'm proud of how we've done that. It's been very tough. The manager, Mr. Walsh, has done an outstanding job, and he and I have consulted constantly with regard to the COVID what we needed to do in terms of pandemic. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that we're a sustainable community. We adopted a sustainable plan in terms of environmental issues a number of years ago. We continue to work towards it. We now have some solar. We're putting in more solar this year. We care about recycling. We work at it. We're redoing the HVAC system. As you would know, being in the studio, it's kind of unbearable there right now because the system is down, because it's being replaced by a more efficient system that'll be better for the environment in the long run. There's just a lot of things to be proud of, and I'm pleased that I've been part of here in Meridian.
And what do you want to do in the next 4 years?
Well, I think it's kind of weaved into that. You know, I want to maintain all of those things in Meridian. want to keep us the kind of place that people want to live and work and have their business.
And what important decisions have you made as the township supervisor so far, and why was it so critical?
Well, we've had a lot of big issues that have come up during the years I've been on the board. For example, communities throughout the whole state, in fact, probably the country, have issues with pension liabilities. Over the years, people get governmental pensions who work for the governments, and you have to fund those. They have to, and as time goes by, the debt load grows, and the investments and the amount of money put aside don't necessarily keep up. Well, one of the things we've tackled here in Meridian, and I'm very proud of how we've done it, and that is the voters approved a special millage that within 10 years, and it'll expire at the end of that, will make us 100% funded. That's something to be proud of. That's something I'd like to see go forward as well and complete. We've also redone our roads. Again, we went to the voters. We explained with facts what the situation was, and we are in a process now of a 10-year plan to redo all the streets within Meridian Township so that by the end of that 10 years, you will have all the streets at a high quality that you can maintain. Right now, we throw money away in a way because we're trying to maintain the streets, and it's like as soon as we get something done, something else is in worse shape, and you just can't keep up. This program will allow us to do it the right way. It was designed by engineers who know what they're doing. And again, the voters came along and agreed with the township board and approved that. So that's a very important thing that is critical to this township and helps us out. I'm not sure what else to talk about at this point. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff going on.
And what are the biggest challenges that you faced as the township supervisor, and how have you handled those challenges?
Well, in a more immediate sense, the COVID pandemic has been a real challenge. And with the township manager and the board members, we've been able to do a lot of things that I think have been very helpful. One of the first things we did was we declared an emergency, just like the governor declared an emergency. Here in Meridian, I declared an emergency. And as a result of that, we had certain things we could do. We decided to delay collection of our water bills for a while. That's something that's within our power, to make sure nobody was shut off from water, because you can't maintain your clean hands and your sanitation without it. So during this pandemic, nobody has been cut off from water, and if they had been, we restored them. We have undertaken a plan to help our small businesses stay alive, where we gave a $4,000 grants to over 40 local businesses that are sort of homegrown, small businesses that depend on the people here in Meridian for their functions. We did that. We have given a money, normally townships are not authorized by law to spend money, and it's kind of ironic, to spend money on helping people out with their human needs, such as rent and food and things like that. It's something cities can do, states can do, but the state law does not provide that for townships. Well, during the state of emergency, by declaring the emergency, we had the opportunity to do it. So we have put money into a fund that we call Meridian Cares. And we have an organization that we put together many years ago called the Community Resources Commission, which is there to help people with rent and with food in bad times, whether it's during the winter, people that are down and out, that sort of thing. And normally that's funded through contributions. But because we took advantage of the emergency declaration to put our regular budget money in there so that they're well suited to dealing with what's coming up, because as the federal programs dry up, as the state programs dry up, we know there's going to be a lot of needy people here in Meridian. They're going to need help, and Meridian Cares will be someplace that they can get that. So that's another one that has been a big challenge, and that's how we've handled it. With regard to COVID, also we created a hotline where people can call in with any kind of needs that they have. And, people call in with some simple things, but they're important. Maybe somebody has trouble getting around and they need help just getting their groceries from the porch to the house, because delivery services just leave them on your porch. We'll do that. But they've also called with big important things too. And we've sent police, fire, individuals who work for the township to help people out through the hotline. We have a senior watch hotline system where you can register your senior citizen and the police will check on them periodically. That's another way we've dealt with the COVID emergency. That's been a big area that has been a real challenge, and that's how we've handled it. Other challenges I mentioned already with regard to improving our roads and dealing with the pension debt, et cetera.
And this election could result in some new faces on the Meridian Township Board. As an incumbent and returning leader of the board, how do you plan to continue improving board cooperation?
Well, it's sort of my job as the leader of the meetings to keep peace among the members. People sometimes, they get really excited about issues that they care about, and we want to keep the conversations going. People listening to each other and thinking, and we probably will result with pretty much the same board. Maybe one or two people might change, but my goal would be to continue to lead through example, to have communication open between the members, to have the issues thoroughly discussed and analyzed so we come to good decisions. And that's the way you do it. You bring people together so that they're not sitting in opposite sides of the room kind of scowling at each other. You make them talk to each other. You make them work together. If I can go back for a minute, you mentioned the biggest challenges. There's a whole other one that I wanted to mention that I didn't mention, and that we have a couple of key areas in the township that are sort of the traditional centers. Meridian grew up with two villages within it. You had the village of Okemos and the village of Hazlet. And those villages go back in history to the early days of the state. And the downtowns of those areas have fallen on hard times. In Meridian, both Okemos downtown, which is sometimes called the Four Corners, you now have a lot of abandoned buildings, and there's a plan to revitalize it. And the township is working hard. That's been a big challenge to get a developer in there, to get the right plan approved, to get things moving. And we had that, and then the COVID crisis hit. Finances dried up, and it's kind of stalled. But we've been having regular meetings with the developer, and we know that they're planning on going forward, that as things are loosening up, they're finding resources. And this fall, before the end of this year, they will be knocking down the old abandoned buildings. And by next spring, they're going to be going forward with their project, which will be wonderful, because the idea is in downtown, what used to be downtown Okemos, and we hope to call it that again, to have small shops, places to go, whether it's to get your hair done or whether it's to buy something at a boutique or to go to a restaurant, just maybe a little artwork, that kind of thing. The goal is to have that kind of a little structure at the corner of Hamilton and Okemos Road. And this developer, who is now kind of starting to move again in terms of that project, will do that. So that'll be wonderful. Similarly, up in what was the downtown, near the downtown Hazlet area, we had the village square, the Hazlet Village Square, and that became kind of a semi-used, almost abandoned area as well. And we've been pushing hard to find developers there. And recently, we approved a project that will cover about a third of that area with a new, I wouldn't call it senior living, but a apartment complex dedicated to people that are like 55 and older. That'll bring people into that area. The first floor will also include a restaurant, shops, that sort of thing, which will then draw from the whole area and encourage development in the other 2/3 of that downtown Hazlet area. And we've gone out of our way to find ways to encourage these developments through tax increment financing being available, which helps deal with the public aspects, whether it's water, sewer, streets. We've also changed our planning, our long-range plans, and our ways of zoning within those two regions to allow a little more scope of development, a little more leeway. And all of that has been important. Those are big challenges, and they're things that are critical to the township.
What do you believe should be the top 3 priorities of the Township Board in the next 4 years?
Well, I would say first, the development of the Okemos and Hazlet downtown areas. And also there's a third area that we were focused on as well over in the Carriage Hills area, which is sort of more towards the East Lansing side, north and East Lansing side of the township. To continue those and get those to fully developed into nice places for people to walk and visit and enjoy. The second one would be maintaining the family-friendly community that we have. We have to make sure that our neighborhoods are the kinds of neighborhoods people want to move into, that to the extent we develop, that we don't develop things that are against that, but rather complement that. Whether it's small businesses, even some chains, or it's new neighborhoods or attachments to those neighborhoods that fit in with the community. And also a real huge priority that has really always been there, but it's become more important recently, is the diversity, equity, and integration plan that we're now coming up with, or DEI as it's often called. You know, we all hear about Black Lives Matter and issues with regard to policing, et cetera. And Meridian is taking these issues seriously. We've always had, all 8 years that I've been involved with the township, diversity is one of our annual key priorities. And we have taken steps, small steps, but we've taken steps along the way to improve the diversity, whether it's within our staff, our police, our fire, or in the community as a whole. And we have taken those important steps as we've gone along, but not with both feet jumping in the way we are now. And we now are making this sort of our #1 priority. We just created at our last meeting a task force of 3 board members, several staff members, and they're going to hire some consultants to come in to work with everybody who's involved with the township government to try to bring us totally up to speed in terms of getting rid of any kind of racism at any level, whether it's overt or covert, hidden away. We need to deal with those things, and we are going to deal with those. That is a huge, huge priority, and what I hope to see accomplished in my next 4 years, to have that to the point where we can feel that we are a true open mixed community, which we always espouse to be.
And I'm going to go back a little bit. I believe that you've touched on this briefly, but how do you think the board should prioritize the use of township general funds, especially in the current economic climate and uncertainties surrounding COVID-19?
Well, we have to be prudent with our money, obviously. I'm very proud of the fact that Meridian has a balanced budget, has had, and in fact puts money away every year. And one of the ways we've survived, so to speak, as a government, the pandemic crisis is the fact that we do have a good, healthy fund balance. But we have to provide the services that our citizens want and need. And by having that economic stability, if you will, Meridian's been able to provide those services, whether it's police, fire, parks, open space, controlling growth so that it's smart and the kind of growth that you would enjoy being around. So prioritizing the budget is to make sure that all of those things can be accomplished. We got to have enough police. They got to be doing their job the right way. We got to have enough fire and emergency techs. You know, all of our firemen are also EMTs. They're paramedics. That's part of the job here at Meridian. We got to continue that. We got to continue to provide outstanding parks. We have almost 1,000 acres of parks in Meridian, which is a lot for a community our size. And those are providing a lot of good services to our citizens. They're being improved at a steady pace. We're getting more and more opportunities for recreation to our citizens. That's another priority. We got to make sure that the budget looks at those properly. And then environmentally, you know, are we doing the things we need to do to be a good, sustainable community so that we're not adding to the problems in terms of environment that our nation faces. So all of those things are things that you need to look at when you prioritize in terms of how you spend the general funds of the township.
How are the costs and benefits of projects or policies weighed before they're set?
Well, I think what you have to do first is you have to analyze each project that comes to you very carefully. You have to get to the bottom of it. You have to look behind them. And that's what we do. We're very thorough. We just don't do things without having studied them, sometimes to death, but we do study them and make sure that we're doing the right thing. We sometimes will have special meetings where all we do at that meeting is discuss in depth with experts and consultants coming in to help us a subject matter. So, that's first. And then we have to approach these things from the point of view of our residents. What is it that the residents really need or want, and want, I should say, not or. Part of that is knowing what the public wants. We do a survey every 3 years of all of our residents to find out what they think about our township and its government, what they think about our programs, and what they're looking for, what they need. For example, the last 3 or 4 surveys, roads were number 1. So we got that tackled now. We're on our way to fixing those roads. Diversity has always been high. We're working on that. We've been working on it, but now we're even working on it even more. So knowing what the public wants and needs, analyzing things very carefully, and then coming to a good conclusion.
What steps do you believe the township should take to enhance diversity within the workforce to effectively represent the diverse makeup of the community?
Well, I already mentioned that we're now taking this to the whole way in terms of a DEI program with a task force and experts. We're going to be having a meeting in August of the public. It'll have to be virtual, I think, at this point, but we'll have a meeting dealing with policing and how people view the policing and what's going on in the township to make sure we're doing things right. These have always been a priority for us in terms of diversity in the community. And then within our staff, we recruit. We try to find people that match our citizenry. In terms, you got to have people from all walks of life, all minorities, all religions represented in the police force, in the fire department. And one of the things we've done in the last, several years at least, is we've now undertaken a program where we will actually assist a person. For example, we did one who's Hispanic not too long ago, go through the police academy. We will help, we'll give them funds and pay their tuition so that they will then come into our force to add to our diversity. And that's working very well. We're doing that again this year with a young lady from the DeWitt area who's now going through that process. And it's been extremely successful. And we're looking at expanding into the fire realm as well. We haven't done it yet, but we're looking at that. So that's something that we've done, that recruitment program.
And you've touched on this with the roads and diversity, but are there any other major changes you believe township residents would like to see in the near future?
Well, I mentioned also the downtown Okemos, Hazlet, and Carriage Hills areas. That's another one. All of these things come out of our surveys with our public. So we know that the people want these, they're interested in these, they want us to move in those directions. Environmental concerns, that's another one, and I have mentioned that. I think for us, the key is to know what the public wants to the extent you can, and people do change their minds, but our surveys have been pretty consistent through the years, and then to fulfill those needs, to keep our promises, so to speak. So I think we've kind of touched on all of it during this conversation.
Why are you still passionate about serving as Meridian Township Supervisor?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Getting to be an old dude now, but all my life I've had a strong interest in public service. I'm actually an attorney, and I ended up my career at the Attorney General's office in Michigan, where for almost 40 years I represented the public, basically, as an assistant attorney general, making sure that the laws were followed to help people out, whether it was consumer protection or healthcare law or licensing of businesses. I was involved in all of that throughout my career. That's always been a direction that I had a feeling that I wanted to be in. Could have made more in private practice, more money, but that's not what I was about. I was about doing public good to the extent I could. Why? I don't know. It's just how I am. In the meantime, I then got involved with the school district. So for 22 years, I served on the Incumbent School Board, required election every 4 years, and appointment to a couple of vacancies later on when the school district called me back. And I just found that very rewarding. You know, it's hard to explain. And from that, I then kind of parlayed into the township, and I've done that now for 8 years. I'm going to hopefully do it well. I will do it for 4 more years, God willing. It's just a part of me, I guess, is the best way to say it.
Well, is there anything else you want the residents of Meridian Township to know about you or the position of Township Supervisor?
I think we've covered most of it. You know, I think it's that I care. I care about the township. I care about its people. I want to make sure that we do a good job and we provide to the people the service that they want, that they're safe, that they have fun, that they are able to get the things they need. And, you know, that I'm about that. I think our township in general is about that. I think our board has been about that. And I know that our employees, our staff, our manager have functioned in that way. They've done a great job. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that we have people working here in the township that care about this township. Even if some don't, they don't all live here, but they do care about it, and they do their job in that way.
Well, Ron, I want to thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, thank you. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. It's nice for once to not then have to wait and hear what the other guy has to say, or the other woman, not other woman, but the woman who is opposing me. It's just, it's kind of fun.
Well, thank you for watching this candidate interview with Meridian Township Supervisor, Democratic incumbent candidate Ron Styka, who currently serves as the Township Supervisor and will continue serving for another 4-year term, as the supervisor race is uncontested in both the primary and general elections. I'm Connie Rabbani, inviting you to watch live primary election night coverage on Tuesday, August 4th, right here on HOMTV.